Your reaction, it wasn't the problem. It was the message. Your chest tightened, you tensed up all over, and before you knew what happened, you lashed out and shut down completely. That isn't a character flaw. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do. And today, I want to talk you through why that happens and why the advice most people give you about triggers is actually keeping you stuck. We hear it everywhere. Set more boundaries, protect yourself, don't let anyone close enough to set you off. And I understand where that comes from. But when I sit with that advice, something in me doesn't settle. Because what is quietly asking you to do is to shrink, make your world smaller, keep the variables controlled. I spent 4 years in what I call yak therapy, talking through my pain, describing it, and analyzing it, and my nervous system barely moved. Because talking through what happened doesn't touch the place where it lives. So today, I want to give you something that gets to the root. A trigger isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that your body never forgot. A trigger isn't evidence that something is wrong with you. It isn't proof that you're too sensitive or too broken. A trigger is a signal. Your body learned at some point in your life that a certain tone of voice, a certain look, a certain kind of silence meant danger, or it meant abandonment, or even shame. And it stored that, not in your memory necessarily, but in your nervous system, in your body, in the way your chest tightens and your jaw clenches before your brain has even caught up to what just happened. This isn't weakness. That's your body being loyal to what it learned. The problem isn't that you get triggered. The problem is that nobody ever taught you what to do when one arrives, and that changes today. I know that might hit differently for some people. And some of you out there are nodding right now. Some of you are thinking, but I've tried to understand my reactions and nothing changes. And I hear that because understanding alone is not enough. I spent years learning that the hard way. And after 4 years of talking through my pain, I found EMDR. And that got closer. But even then, I noticed gaps. There was no structure between the sessions, no way to lock in what shifted, no record of all the work that I had done and how far I'd come. So I started building something, not from a textbook, from the inside of my own healing. I learned very young that staying quiet kept me safe. The problem was I never unlearned it. As an OR nurse, I couldn't afford to be silent. Lives depended on me speaking up. But the moment I walked out of that OR, I stuffed every bit of it back down. The disrespect, the emotional weight, all of it. Because silence was still the only way I knew how to keep safe. But I didn't know how to keep myself safe through decades of emotional abuse. I was trained to stay steady in the middle of crisis, to hold it together when everything around me was urgent. And I was very good at it on the outside. But what nobody saw was what that cost me. What years of staying steady on the outside while carrying pain on the inside does to a nervous system. I know what it feels like to have done everything right or tried to, and still feel like something is quietly breaking inside you. And I know what it feels like to sit across from someone week after week and leave feeling like nothing actually moved. I also know what it feels like when something finally does, and that's why I'm here. I want to say something before we go any further. The noise, it's everywhere, and it doesn't stop. And in that environment, the instinct to protect yourself makes complete sense. But here's what I know from my own experience and from everything I've studied and built. You cannot outrun your nervous system. You can control your environment down to the smallest degree, and your body, it'll still find a way to surface what hasn't been dealt with. Because it isn't looking for the right trigger, it's looking for resolution. The unresolved feeling doesn't need a perfectly curated life to stay quiet. What if the thing that just set you off is actually the most precise map you've ever been given? There's a moment, just a fraction of a second, between the trigger and your response. And in that space lives everything. That's where awareness lives, where something different becomes possible. Most of us, we just blow right past it because the activation comes fast and the nervous system is already 3 steps behind. But that space can be widened, and it's not through willpower, but through building a real relationship with your own internal experience. So when that wave hits, you have something to stand on. One question widens that space more than anything I know. What just got touched in me? Not, why is that person doing this? Or not, what does this say about me or the world? Just, what's happening in my body right now? And what does it need from me? That one question changes the direction of everything. And here's what I want you to understand about that question. What just got touched in me? It isn't about a thinking question. It's a body question. You're not trying to analyze your way to an answer. You're dropping your attention down out of your head into your chest, your stomach, or your throat. You're asking your body to tell you what it already knows. That's a completely different skill than what most of us were ever taught. And the best part, it's learnable. What if your triggers aren't obstacles to your healing? What if they're the most precise map you've ever been given? Every time something sets you off, your body is handing you a highlighted route directly to the emotional material that's still waiting for your attention. Most of us have spent years avoiding the map, staying busy, staying numb, building a life carefully arranged around not having to feel certain things. But the map keeps showing up. The same patterns in different relationships, the same reactions in different circumstances, the same heaviness that follows you no matter how carefully you arrange things. This isn't a character flaw. That's unfinished business. And here's the thing about unfinished business. It doesn't ask permission before it shows up. It arrives in the middle of dinner, in a text message, in the way someone's tone of voice sends you somewhere you didn't want to go. Most of us were never taught what to do in that moment. We were taught to just push through, to be stronger and not let it show. And so we got very good at surviving our triggers and being a poser without ever actually resolving them. I want to offer you something different. Not a way to avoid the wave, a way to finally let it move through and finish. The world is going to keep being busy and loud, and people are going to keep saying things that hit wrong. You can't change that. But the only territory you can actually have sovereignty over is what happens inside of you. And that inner life, when it's paid attention to and given the right kind of consistent care, becomes steady ground in the middle of noise. Healing, it doesn't mean you never get triggered again. It means you change your relationship with what comes up. You move from being blindsided by your own nervous system into being in conversation with it. Not self-compassion when you handle it gracefully. Self-compassion when you didn't. When you said the wrong thing. When you shut down. When your chest tightened and you lashed out. Exactly the way you promised yourself you wouldn't. That's the moment that matters. Not when you hold it all together, the moment after you didn't. When you choose to begin again instead of piling shame on top of the wound. That's where real change lives, in the beginning again. Before we close, I want to give you something you can use right now. Wherever you're holding tension, your jaw, your chest, your throat, just place one hand there gently. Take a slow breath in and just breathe out. And as you breathe out, just do a quiet, low hum. Feel it vibrate against your hand and stay there for 3 breaths. That vibration, it's your nervous system beginning to settle. You don't need anything special, just your own voice and your breath. Try it out this week. Every time you feel the activation, start. 1 hand, 1 breath, 1 hum. If this spoke to something real today, follow along. There's more coming that builds directly on everything we've talked through. My full 21-day Heal Your Emotions series, it's on YouTube, and the link is in my bio. Your body, it already knows how to heal. It's just waiting for you to listen.